Welcome to my channel.
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.
I never thought I would be the kind of woman who would have to dial 911 on her own husband. I never thought I would hear the sound of shattered picture frames hitting the ground or see a door ripped clean off its hinges while my toddler screamed in the background. I never thought I'd be the mother who had to stand in the middle of chaos and beg for peace in my own home. But here I am. And if you're wondering how everything spiraled so far out of control, let me take you back. Because trust me, the ending isn't what you think. My name is Anna. I'm 39 years old, a stay-at-home mom, and for 5 years, I've been married to a man I once believed was my forever. His name is Mark. He's 40. And when we first met, he was charming in all the right ways, funny, intelligent, adventurous. But even from the beginning, there were shadows. Mark had struggled with substances. Pills, mostly. The kind that start with an injury and end with a lifetime of excuses. Back then, I thought love could fix it. I thought I could fix it. If you've ever been in love with someone broken, you know what I mean. That desperate belief that if you just love them enough, if you just support them enough, they'll rise out of the darkness. That was me. I was the savior in my own story. Or so I thought. The first real scare came 3 years ago. I remember standing in our old apartment, shaking, staring at him as he slumped over on the couch. "Mark," I screamed, shaking his shoulder. His lips were pale, his breathing shallow. And then nothing. I called 911, my hands trembling so hard I almost dropped the phone. The operator's voice was calm. "Do you have Narcan?" I did, because that was the reality of my life back then. I didn't just carry snacks and toys for my toddler, I carried life-saving medication. I jammed it into his nose, tears blurring my vision, and seconds later, he gasped for air. He lived, and I told myself it was a second chance. But second chances with Mark always turned into third and fourth and fifth. We lost a roommate to an overdose. That was the night I swore things had to change. "Mark, you're going to rehab," I told him. He resisted at first. He always resisted. But when the funeral came and I saw him break down over the casket, I thought maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point. He went. 30 days. During that time, I moved. I got a new house. One with light and space and rules. No more drugs. Ever. When he came back, I took him in. I laid down boundaries, clear as day. "Mark, if you use again, if you break this promise, I'm gone. For good." He agreed. He said all the right things. He promised me a new life. And for a while, he delivered. But then came July. That's when everything changed. It started with his back injury. He said the pain was unbearable. Surgery was the only answer. And then he started on testosterone therapy. I didn't think much of it at first. He said it would help him heal, that it was safe, that it wasn't like the pills. But within weeks, I noticed the difference. His temper, his moods, the way his eyes went dark so quickly over the smallest things. We went on vacation with his family. What should have been fun turned into a nightmare. One night, after a small argument, he stormed outside and threw patio chairs off the balcony of our Airbnb. His niece cried. His sister tried to calm him down. His parents made excuses. "That's just Mark," they said. But I knew better. Something had shifted. The violence grew bolder. There was the night he slammed his fist into the wall so hard the plaster cracked. The night he ripped a cabinet door clean off its hinges because dinner wasn't ready on time. And the night he leaned over me, his face inches from mine, and said in a low, terrifying voice, "I could break your neck." I froze. My blood ran cold. He walked away like nothing happened. But I didn't sleep that night. I begged him to stop the testosterone. "Mark, it's changing you," I said. "Please. Please go back to therapy. Please talk to your group." He scoffed. "You're just overreacting. You're always so hard to deal with." That was his favorite line. "You're hard to deal with." Like the problem was me, not him. Like I was the reason he was destroying our home. I started seeing my therapist more often. I whispered things in that office I had never admitted out loud. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm scared for my son. What if he hurts me for real next time? My therapist nodded, patient, kind. She asked me if I had an escape plan. She asked me if I was ready to make hard choices. And that's when I started looking into consultations with family lawyers, just to know my options, just in case. When I told Mark, he exploded. We were in the kitchen. Our son was in his playpen, babbling happily, unaware of the storm brewing just feet away. I have a consultation next week, I said, my voice shaking. If things don't change, he didn't let me finish. What the hell do you mean, consultation? He shouted. Mark, please calm down. No. You think you're going to take my son away from me? You think you're going to just walk out? He slammed his fist onto the counter so hard the dishes rattled. Then he grabbed the nearest picture frame and hurled it across the room. Glass shattered everywhere. Our son started crying. I reached for my phone, and that's when he ripped the door right off its hinges and threw it down the hallway. Stop it, I cried. Stop it, Mark. But he didn't stop. He saw me dialing 911 and lunged. He snatched my phone, threw it across the room, and for a moment I thought this was it. I thought this was the night my life would end. But something in me, something strong, something primal, took over. I grabbed my crying son, clutched him to my chest, and screamed at the top of my lungs. Help. Neighbors heard. Someone called the police. Within minutes, flashing lights lit up my driveway. And that's where I'll pause. Because the story doesn't end with the police at my door. It doesn't end with Mark being dragged out in handcuffs. No. The real ending, the one I never could have predicted, was still waiting for me. And it would change everything. The sirens were still echoing in my ears when the police knocked on the door. I stood there clutching my son, trembling, my back pressed against the wall as if it could somehow swallow me up and hide me from everything happening. Ma'am, are you okay? One of the officers asked. I nodded, but my lips didn't work. No words came out. Mark stood behind me, his chest rising and falling, his face twisted in anger, but also something else. Fear. Sir, step outside, the other officer ordered. Mark raised his hands, defiant. I didn't do anything. She's overreacting. She's crazy. Step outside. The tone left no room for argument. I remember the sound of my son's cries filling the room. It was louder than the shattered glass on the floor, louder than my racing heartbeat. I whispered, "It's okay, baby, mommy's here. You're safe now." But inside, I didn't believe it. When the officers separated us, one outside with Mark, one inside with me, I finally found my voice. He smashed picture frames, I said, pointing at the broken glass. He ripped the door off. He grabbed my phone. He did it all in front of our son. The officer scribbled notes, his face expressionless. "Has this happened before?" he asked. I hesitated. Then I whispered, "Yes." I told him about the threats, about the night Mark said he'd break my neck, about the violence that had been building for months. The officer's eyes softened, just slightly. "You did the right thing by calling us," he said. Outside, I could still hear Mark yelling, "This is ridiculous. You're just taking her side because she's the woman." Then, quieter, "She's trying to ruin my life." My stomach twisted. When the officers finally left, they gave me a card with a case number, told me about resources, shelters, restraining orders. Mark wasn't arrested that night. They said they didn't have enough to charge him. But he was furious. The second the door closed behind them, he turned to me, his face pale with rage. "You called the cops on me?" he hissed. "I didn't have a choice, Mark," I whispered. "There's always a choice. And you just made the wrong one." That night, I slept with my son in the guest room. The door locked, a chair wedged against the handle. I stared at the ceiling for hours, every creak of the house making me jump. I kept replaying the moment he said, "I could break your neck." And I wondered, what if next time he really tried? The following days were a blur. Mark acted like nothing had happened. He walked around the house whistling, fixing himself breakfast, watching TV with our son. But every time our eyes met, I saw it. The coldness. the simmering anger just beneath the surface. And then came the phone calls. His mother. The first time she called, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd ask if I was okay. But the second I picked up, I realized how wrong I was. Anna, what did you do to my son? She demanded. What? You called the police? Are you insane? Do you know what that could do to his record? To his reputation? I felt my throat tighten. He was violent. He broke things. He scared me. He scared our son. Oh, stop being so dramatic, she snapped. Mark has a temper, yes, but he would never hurt you. You're just making things worse. You always have. My hands shook as I held the phone. He told me he would break my neck. There was silence for a beat. Then, you must have provoked him. My poor son. Click. She hung up. That became the pattern. Every day, another call. Sometimes it was his mother, sometimes his sister. Why are you trying to ruin his life? He just needs support, Anna, not the police. You're crazy if you think you can take his son away from him. Each word chipped away at me, because for years I had believed the same things. That if I just loved him enough, if I just supported him enough, he would get better. But now, with my son watching everything, I couldn't believe those lies anymore. I kept going to therapy. One day, my therapist looked me in the eye and said, Anna, I need you to ask yourself one question. If your son grows up watching this, watching his father scream at you, break things, threaten you, what lesson is he learning about love? Her words hit me like a truck, because I knew the answer. He would learn that love is fear, that family means walking on eggshells, that women are supposed to endure, and I couldn't let that be his story. Still, I hesitated. Part of me clung to the memories of the man I had fallen in love with, the Mark who made me laugh, the Mark who held my hand when our son was born. I kept thinking maybe, just maybe, he could come back. But every time I looked at him, every time I heard his mother's voice on the phone, I felt the truth pressing down on me. He wasn't coming back, and I had to choose. One night, about a week after the police came, I decided to test him. I said quietly, Mark, I think we need to take a break. Maybe you should stay at your mom's for a while. His eyes narrowed. You're trying to kick me out of my own house? It's not safe for me right now, I whispered. Or for our son. His laugh was cold. You think you can just push me out? This is my house too. My family. My son. Mark, please. He leaned in close, his voice low and deadly. Try it. Try and get rid of me. You'll regret it. I shivered. That night, I packed a bag. Just the essentials, diapers, clothes, documents. I hid it in the trunk of my car. Because I knew the next explosion was coming. And this time, I had to be ready. But here's the thing. I thought I knew how this story would end. I thought it would be me, finally walking away, finally choosing safety over chaos. But life has a way of twisting, of throwing you down paths you never expected. And the way this story actually ends, it's darker, more complicated. And it left me questioning everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and survival. The bag in my trunk became my lifeline. Every time I walked past the car, I thought, if it happens again, if it gets worse, that's my way out. And of course, it did happen again. It was a Tuesday night. Mark came home late, his eyes wild, his steps heavy. I could smell the faint tang of alcohol on his breath, though he swore he wasn't drinking. He dropped his keys on the counter with a clang and looked at me like I was the enemy. What's for dinner? He asked flatly. It's in the oven, I said quietly, rocking our son in my arms. Cold food again, he muttered. What do you even do all day? My heart sank. The same script, the same words he always used to tear me down. I placed our son gently in his playpen and turned back to the oven. Mark, I'm tired, I whispered. Can we please not fight tonight? But he was already spiraling. Fight? You think this is a fight? No, Anna, this is me telling you the truth. You're lazy. You're ungrateful. You're trying to turn my son against me. Stop, I said, my voice trembling. He slammed his hand against the wall. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Our son began to cry. and something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys. "I'm leaving," I said firmly. "I'm taking him, and we're leaving." Mark's eyes widened, then narrowed. "You think you can just walk out? With my son?" "He's our son," I said. "And I'm not staying here another night." He lunged forward, his hand closing around my wrist. The grip was iron, painful, unrelenting. "You're not going anywhere," he growled. "Let me go." I screamed. Our son wailed, the sound piercing, heartbreaking. And then my survival instincts kicked in. I twisted, shoved him back with everything I had, scooped up my son, and bolted for the door. Mark's shouts followed me into the night. "You'll regret this, Anna." I drove straight to the police station, my hands shaking so violently I could barely keep them on the wheel. Inside, under the harsh fluorescent lights, I told them everything. The broken picture frames, the threats, the grip on my wrist, the fear in my son's cries. The officer looked at me steadily. "Do you want to press charges?" My throat tightened. I thought of his mother's voice in my head. "Poor Mark. You're crazy. You provoked him." And then I looked down at my son, his tear-streaked face buried against my chest. "Yes," I whispered. "I do." That night, Mark was arrested. The call came from his sister, her voice shrill with anger. "How could you do this to him? How could you call the police again? You're destroying our family." "No," I said quietly. "He destroyed it himself." She hung up on me. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork, restraining orders, court dates. I moved in temporarily with my sister, who didn't ask questions, just opened her door and wrapped me in a hug. For the first time in months, I slept without a chair against the door. For the first time, I woke up without fear. But freedom came with its own weight. The phone calls from his family didn't stop. "Drop the charges," his mother pleaded. "He's sick," his father said. "He needs help, not jail." "Don't do this to your son," his sister hissed. And each time, I asked myself, am I doing the right thing? Because leaving isn't easy. It's not a straight line. It's a maze of guilt, love, fear, and doubt. One night, alone in my sister's guest room, I whispered to myself, did I really destroy our marriage? Or did I just finally save myself? The truth was, I already knew the answer. The court granted me a protective order. Mark was forbidden from coming near me or our son. He called anyway from unknown numbers. "I'm sorry, Anna. I'll change. Just give me another chance." The first time, my hands shook. The second time, I nearly answered. The third time, I pressed block without hesitation. My therapist said something that stuck with me. Abuse doesn't start with broken bones. It starts with broken boundaries. And you've been living in a broken boundary for years. She was right. Mark had been crossing lines for years, and I had kept moving them further, until there was nothing left of me. But now I was done. The final straw came during the custody hearing. Mark stood there in court, his suit rumpled, his eyes wild, telling the judge that I was unstable. "She's making it all up," he insisted. "She's crazy. Ask my mother. Ask my family." I sat there, my hands trembling, clutching the photos of the broken door, the police reports, the bruises on my wrist. When it was my turn, I stood up, my voice shaking but steady. "Your Honor, I'm not here to destroy him. I'm here to protect my son. And myself. That's all." The judge granted me full custody. Mark was given supervised visitation, pending proof of sobriety and completion of anger management. His mother wept in the courtroom. His sister glared at me with venom. But I walked out with my son in my arms, and for the first time, I felt free. Do I still ask myself if I did the right thing? Sometimes. But then I look at my son. I watch him laugh, play, sleep peacefully in his crib without waking to shouts and slamming doors. And I know, I chose safety. I chose peace. I chose life. The real ending of this story isn't about Mark, or his mother, or even the police. The real ending is about me. About finding the strength I didn't know I had. About breaking the cycle, even when everyone told me I was crazy. about saving myself and my son. So, if you're listening to this, if you're sitting in the dark wondering if it's really that bad, if you're making excuses for the person who hurts you, hear me. It is that bad. You're not crazy. And you don't have to wait for another broken door, another shattered frame, another whispered threat. You can leave. And one day, you'll look back and realize calling the police wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning.